Hello guys, welcome back to Confessions of a Dprof. Thank you so much for all the love and support that you showed me on my last video. So one of the things that I noticed from my last video is that actually the introduction video brought on more questions than it answered, and some of them are personal, and I'll go through them because they're quite interesting and things that I've never been asked before. But one that I thought was really important to address was all the different types of research degrees. So terminal research degrees, which people would just broadly say doctorates. And the reason I'm doing that is because I remember when I was trying to apply, there was no information out there. I guess I had to learn the hard way. And yeah, so I'll just go through some of the abbreviations because abbreviations are used absolutely everywhere. And initially, when I was applying, I applied for 4 universities in total, but a total of 9 courses. I applied for PhD full-time, PhD part-time, professional doctorate. So the application process for me took 7 months, and that was because a host of things. So unlike UCAS or applying to a taught master's course, you don't apply to the course. You're really applying not only to the university, but sometimes it's as specific as applying to applying to a particular supervisor, because most universities will be happy, to have you as a student, but who's going to supervise you? So that's where I'll make the first distinction. So in terms of research degrees, when you're applying, there's 2 ways to apply. There's a way you apply, you have your own research interests that are also allied to the university, and you apply because you have some ideas and you want to develop those ideas with a supervisor who's currently researching in that field. And that was the route that I went. Or you can apply to a PhD program that's preset, usually within a research community. Just to be clear, I had a particular topic in mind, so I was going through the self-funded or will be applying for research grants. So I had to apply directly to supervisors who either were interested in the topic that I'm interested in, and this is where it sort of gets tricky, because you've got to get in contact with these supervisors. You've got to explain to them and justify your research before you've even actually committed to that university, and you have to. So there was a lot of prep. So yeah, so in the first sort of month or so, I started looking at universities near where I am, universities that I know from doing my MSc dissertation, and just from being so interested in the topic, universities that I know that there are researchers currently researching what I'm interested in, and I had to get in contact with those people, and that was so daunting, and daunting for so many reasons. Not because it's so easy to find these emails online and send the email, but actually, I am just a girl working, in primary care, just to be emailing these professors and telling them that actually I am interested in kind of what you're interested in, but I feel that I would like to research this and nobody's doing this. It's absolutely daunting because most of these people are, experts in their field, and yeah, but go for it, because it is absolutely crucial that you do. So once you've made that step, certainly that's a step in the right direction, but by all means, there is so much more. So that was the first step. I had to find supervisors, I had to find universities that are researching what I'd like to research, and then make them interested in me, because at that point, unfortunately, you don't have anything. PhD, what all of these mean, so that when you're investing all that time emailing all these people, you're doing it for exactly what you'd like to do. So yeah, so let's go. Otherwise I could go on forever and ever. So yeah. Okay, so I think it's best to start with the PhD. So the PhD is Doctor of Philosophy, which is, when we think of terminal research degrees, certainly that's what I knew and what I thought of. And this is usually an academic focused. This is usually an academic focus topic. So yeah, so Doctor of Philosophy, so these are your PhD students most of the time, and you can have a PhD in most subjects. So when we think of PhD, we think of science, but there's PhDs in nursing, and most of PhD, they have a theoretical focus, and tend to work in academia, but actually a lot of the things that I'm finding so interesting is PhD students talking about their decision to go work in industry after and not working in academia. Now, most of the time there isn't any compulsory teaching component. However, there is so many seminars and all sorts of things and there are lessons that are going on, well, at least at in the institutions that I applied for, that you can go to. So if you wanted to, you could have a full day of lectures and brushing up on the things that you don't know. And yeah, so that's the PhD. Now, there's also the professional doctorate. So the professional doctorate is predominantly for professionals who are working in relatively senior roles, and they already have a postgraduate qualification. Entry requirements between the two. What I found was that both of them, it is definitely advisable for you to have some postgraduate qualification. So whether it's a master's or a postgraduate diploma, that's one thing. More so with the PhD, an MPhil is usually the route to going on to a PhD. So you do your MPhil or some sort of research associated master's course, and then you go to your PhD, which then sets you up appropriately to then conduct independent research with supervisors. However, with the professional doctorate, there are some other things that you have to consider. So you have to have had there's a minimum level of experience that you should have in your industry, and sometimes this needs to be, you have to be a regulated healthcare professional. However, if you're doing it in business accounting, that sort of thing, not necessarily, but you have to have some experience. So I think from what I remember, it ranged from 3 to some universities had 6 years of experience, which that's quite a significant amount of experience, which is something that is not necessarily so for a PhD. So PhD, you again, this is where the stress comes from, it being an academic. You're more likely to have done your master's the year prior, or just come out of university and gone to do a PhD. Whereas there is a large gap between your last time in further education and coming to do a professional doctorate. So now also other professional doctorate include the EDD or the DED, which is the Doctor of Education. So again, this is, as you can imagine, a focus in education, but there are some people, and this is where it gets tricky, there are some people who are doing a professional doctorate in health, but their focus is in education, and there's also people doing PhD in, I don't know, let's say physiotherapy, but their focus is in education. So there is the MD. This particular course is for doctors who would like to do medical doctors who would like to do a research degree. Where it gets tricky is that my partner, he's a GP trainee, so he's a medical doctor, but he's trained outside the UK, so he is an MD. But this is why it is really important to have those conversations with people who are speaking this language every day. So I'm so glad I took the leap and messaged message that supervisor. So that supervisor, actually, it's not the university that I decided to go to in the end, but he was so helpful, and he was so helpful considering I wasn't a student there, and he really did move my enthusiasm along, and he probably more than he would ever know, they provided so much encouragement. So yeah. So the reason why this becomes important, as I've mentioned, the application process for me was 7 months. Bear in mind, I work full time, so maybe that had some bearing in it. But so because it takes so long, it's important that you know what you're applying for, and and it's not a futile attempt. So I actually did have a futile attempt, and I sort of went back to kind of reflect, and I was thinking, really, how did I miss this? And I hope you found this video useful, and tune in for some of my other videos where I talk about why a research degree, and also how. I'm really excited to make the how, because as I say, 7 months is a long time of my life, and if I can make that time shorter for somebody else and more efficient, and I would love to. So yeah, thank you.